The Galactic Council had gathered in the grand chamber of Oreth Prime. The chamber was an enormous circular hall made of shining crystalline steel. High above, glowing orbs floated like small suns, throwing soft blue light over the many seats, filled with alien leaders. Every world, every species that mattered in the galaxy had a place there, and today they had only one subject to discuss: humanity. The council leader, an ancient being from the Rithari species, raised his long silver hands. His voice echoed through the chamber like a low bell. Brothers and sisters of the stars, the humans have asked for talks. They seek peace after the border dispute. This is good. This is wise. They will come with diplomats and we will make them sign the treaty. A murmur spread across the chamber. The reptilian Vurok clicked their jaws in agreement. The tall and elegant Therial whispered with their glowing eyes half closed. Most of the council believed the humans had no choice but to accept peace on alien terms. For years, humanity had been seen as a young race. Strong, yes, clever, yes, but still new to the galaxy. The great empires thought of Earth as a small player, and so when humans resisted alien trade rules, when they fought against unfair taxes on their colonies, the council laughed. They believed Earth would eventually kneel. One counselor, a dark-skinned Tirak with 6 shining eyes, rose slowly. "We should not underestimate them," he said. "Humans have fought hard wars before. They do not forget. They do not forgive easily." But the others dismissed him with laughter. The insectoid Jorik clacked their wings. "Do not be afraid, Tirak. Humans may roar like beasts, but they will come to this chamber with bowed heads. They need peace, they need trade, they need us." The Rithari leader nodded firmly. "Exactly. They cannot survive without our council. They will come to negotiate, and we will make them sign away their pride." A vote was taken. Almost every hand, claw, wing, or tendril was raised in agreement. Humanity would send diplomats. Humanity would obey. The council felt secure in its power. But while the chamber was filled with pride and laughter, far away in the cold black of space, something else was happening. At the edge of the galaxy, long-range scanners picked up movement. First, it looked like a comet trail, a small streak of energy across the dark. But then more trails appeared. Then more. Dozens. Hundreds. The station master of an outpost near the Rithari border blinked his many eyes. He ran the scan twice, then 3 times. The results were the same. A massive fleet was entering council space, ships of steel and fire, ships with engines burning brighter than suns, ships flying under the banner of Earth, the human Battlefleet. The station master froze, his mandibles trembling. He had expected, perhaps a few transports, maybe a small escort of frigates for protection. But this was something else. This was a force of war. He sent a warning to the council, his voice almost breaking. "Alert! Alert! Humans are not sending diplomats. They are sending battleships." Back in the council chamber, the message exploded like thunder. Leaders shouted, their voices rising in panic. Some refused to believe it. Others accused the station master of lying. The Yorick ambassador buzzed angrily. "Impossible! They would never dare bring warships to the council. It is against all treaties." But another message arrived. Then another. Then another. Every border station confirmed the same truth. A fleet, not a small one, the largest ever seen from Earth. The Rithari leader gripped the edge of his seat. This cannot be. They promised negotiations. They asked for peace talks. The Tirak with 6 eyes spoke again, his voice low but steady. "I warned you. Humans do not bow. Humans do not forget. If they come with warships, it means they are finished with words." Silence spread across the chamber like a storm cloud. Every leader felt a chill inside. They had believed humans were desperate. They had believed humans would kneel. But the truth was different. The humans were not coming to talk. They were coming to show strength. Far across the stars, the human fleet moved in perfect formation. Battleships with thick armor, carriers loaded with fighters, cruisers lined with railguns and plasma cannons. Every ship bore the blue and white emblem of Earth, glowing against the black void. On the flagship Invictus, Admiral Jonathan Hale stood, tall on the bridge. His uniform was simple, dark navy with silver trim. His eyes were cold as steel, fixed on the stars ahead. Around him, officers moved quickly but calmly. There was no panic, no fear, only purpose. "Status report," Hale said quietly. "All ships aligned, Admiral," replied a young officer. "Fleet ready for command." Hale nodded. "Good. Then let the Council see what humanity brings when it is disrespected." His words were simple, his tone was calm. But every officer on the bridge felt the weight of them. The humans were not flying to negotiate. They were flying to remind the galaxy of something it had forgotten. Back in the Council chamber, panic was rising again. Some wanted to send messages begging for peace. Others wanted to call their own fleets to defend the capital. But they all knew deep inside that it was too late. The humans were already here. From the viewing deck of Orath Prime, alien citizens watched the sky. At first, only a few stars seemed to move. Then the sky filled with steel giants. Human ships, thousands of them dark and silent, sliding into orbit like predators. Gasps and screams filled the streets. Children of every species pointed with wide eyes. Traders abandoned their stalls. Priests fell to their knees. The humans had arrived. Inside the council chamber, silence fell once more. The Rithari leader, usually calm, now looked pale. He turned slowly to the others and whispered the words no one wanted to hear. "We made a mistake." The words echoed like thunder in the chamber. The mistake was clear now. They had thought humans would negotiate. They had thought humans would come begging. But instead, Earth had sent the finest Battlefleet in the galaxy, and the true horror had only just begun. The first sight of the human fleet over Orath Prime was not sound, not fire, not battle. It was silence. Thousands of ships slid into orbit, like shadows moving across the stars. They did not roar. They did not announce themselves. They simply appeared, black steel giants cutting across the night sky. Their engines glowed faint blue, steady and calm, as if they had endless power to burn. Every eye in the city below looked upward. Aliens of every race filled the plazas, the streets, the markets. Their mouths opened, but no words came. Mothers clutched their children. Merchants dropped their wares. Even soldiers on guard towers forgot their weapons. The humans had not brought a fleet. They had brought a storm. On the flagship Invictus, Admiral Hale stood at the front of the bridge. His hands were behind his back, his eyes fixed on the planet below. Around him, the crew worked without pause. Dozens of holographic screens floated in the air, showing positions, energy levels, weapon readiness. "Fleet status?" Hale asked. "All ships in position, Admiral," replied Commander Elena Voss. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were hard. "Weapons charged, fighters on standby, carriers fully deployed." Hale gave a single nod. "Hold formation, let them watch." That was the plan. No need to fire, no need to attack. The sight alone would do what words could not. Back in the council chamber, fear was spreading like fire through dry grass. The Joric ambassador beat his wings nervously. "It is not possible. No single species could build so many warships. Look at them, look at their size." The Therial delegate, tall and elegant, whispered with trembling lips. "Each of their carriers is larger than our capital stations. The cost, the resources. How could humans do this?" No one answered. They had thought humanity was small. They had thought Earth was still weak, still struggling, still dependent on trade and favors. But the fleet above proved another truth. While the empires debated and argued, humans had been building, in silence, in secret, in determination. And now the galaxy could see the result. A signal came from the human fleet. It was not long. It was not polite. It was only a short broadcast, played across every channel in every language. "This is Admiral Jonathan Hale of the United Earth Fleet. We come not as diplomats. We come as a reminder. The words echoed through the council chamber like hammers, striking stone. The Rithari leader leaned forward, his voice shaking. A reminder of what? The Tirak with 6 eyes answered, his voice grim. Of who they are. The alien citizens on Orath Prime watched with horror as the human fleet rearranged itself in the sky. It was not random. It was perfect. Ships moved in flawless patterns, forming lines, circles, and spearheads. It was a display of unity, of discipline. Each movement sharp as a blade. Then, from the carriers, squadrons of fighters launched in streams of silver. Hundreds, then thousands. They filled the upper atmosphere, streaks of light crisscrossing like fireflies. But still, not a single shot was fired. The humans were showing their strength. They were showing what they could do. And the message was clear. If they wished, they could destroy Orath Prime in minutes. Panic spread through the council chamber. Some shouted to send messages of surrender. Others demanded their own fleets be called. But they all knew the truth. No fleet in the galaxy could stand against this. The Joric ambassador shouted, his wings buzzing madly. We must fight. If we give in now, humanity will rule us all. The Therial delegate shook her head. Fool, look at them. Fight. And this planet burns. The chamber fell into chaos. Screams, shouts, cries. The pride of the council had turned to dust. On the Invictus, Admiral Hale stood like a statue. His officers waited for orders, their faces calm but their hearts heavy with fire. They all knew why they were here. They were not here to destroy. They were here to remind the galaxy that humans never begged. Hale turned slowly to his communications officer. Send the second message. The officer pressed a control, and across every channel, the human voice spoke again. Your council thought humanity would kneel. Your council thought humanity would beg. We came not to bow. We came to show you the truth. From this day we speak as equals, or not at all. The message ended. Silence followed. But it was a silence heavier than any thunder. Down on Orath Prime, children cried as their parents pulled them indoors. Shops closed. Temples locked their doors. Even soldiers dropped their weapons in fear. Above, the human fleet shone like an iron crown around the planet. Their presence was not just military. It was symbolic. The galaxy had always believed the Council was the greatest power. But now, in a single moment, that belief was shattered. The humans had arrived not as guests, but as rulers. In the council chamber, the Rithari leader finally stood. His voice was weak, his silver hands trembling. We underestimated them. We thought they were desperate. We thought they would negotiate. But they have come with the finest fleet the galaxy has ever seen. His words hung in the air. The Tirak, with 6 eyes, leaned forward, his tone like stone. This is not negotiation, this is power, and the galaxy has no choice but to obey. The truth was clear. The Council had made its greatest mistake. They had believed humans would bend. But humans did not bend. Humans broke anything that tried to chain them. On the Invictus, Admiral Hale finally allowed himself the smallest of smiles. He had seen the Council panic. He had seen the fear in their eyes. And he knew. The galaxy would never again look at Earth the same way, but this was only the beginning. The true lesson had not yet been taught. The council chamber was silent. The silence was not peace. It was fear. Every alien leader sat frozen in their seats. Some trembled. Some clenched their fists. Some stared at the ground as if looking away could change reality. Outside their great windows, the human fleet covered the sky of Orath Prime like a wall of steel. The Rithari leader tried to steady his voice. Perhaps they only wish to scare us. Perhaps this is a bluff. The words sounded weak, even to his own ears. No one answered. Then the speakers, inside the chamber, came alive. A human voice filled the air, deep and calm, translated into every language at once. This is Admiral Jonathan Hale of the United Earth Fleet. I speak for humanity. The voice was not angry. It was not shouting. But it carried weight, like a mountain pressing on every chest. The chamber froze. The aliens held their breath. "We came here not to negotiate," Hale continued. "We came to remind you. Humanity does not kneel. Humanity does not beg. Humanity speaks as an equal, or humanity does not speak at all." The words fell like knives. The Joric ambassador slammed his wings against his seat. "Arrogant, insulting! They dare address the council this way?" His voice was high and broken with panic. But the Tirak with 6 eyes only whispered, "They dare because they can." On the surface of Orath Prime, the citizens heard the same message. Screens in markets and temples flashed with the face of Admiral Hale, his sharp eyes unblinking. The people of the galaxy watched as his words repeated in every language. Merchants dropped their goods. Parents pulled children close. Soldiers on patrol stood stiff, hands trembling around their weapons. For the first time in centuries, the citizens of the council world saw not their rulers, but another power, one that stood above them. Back in the chamber, Hale's voice continued, steady as stone. "You called us here to sign your treaty. You thought we would bow. You thought we would accept weakness. But Earth remembers. Earth remembers every insult, every unfair tax, every attempt to chain us. You thought our silence meant obedience, but our silence meant we were preparing." A wave of fear rippled through the aliens. Some whispered prayers. Others shook their heads. The truth burned in their hearts. While they had laughed at Earth, Earth had been building something greater than anyone imagined. Suddenly, the chamber lights flickered. The great wall behind the council turned into a massive screen. The humans had hacked the system. Every alien leader now stared at live images of the human fleet above. The display showed battleships aligning, cannons glowing faintly with energy. Carriers opened like great jaws, releasing thousands of fighters that hovered in formation. Then the image shifted. It showed Earth itself, blue oceans, green forests, white clouds, a simple, beautiful planet. But now it was defended by a fleet greater than any empire had ever known. Hale's voice returned. "Look upon Earth. Remember it well. It is no longer a young world. It is no longer your student. It is no longer your servant. It is a power. It is your equal. And if you force us, it will be your master." The words hit the chamber like thunder. Panic broke. Some counselors screamed. Others shouted for surrender. The Joric ambassador demanded fleets be summoned, though he knew it would be suicide. But amid the chaos, the Therial delegate stood. Her golden eyes burned with fear and truth. "Do you not see? If they wished to destroy us, they would have done so already. They are not here for war. They are here to show us our place." Her voice cut through the noise. Slowly, silence fell, again. Every leader knew she was right. The humans had not fired, not one shot, not one missile, not one beam. They had only spoken, and yet their words carried more weight than any weapon. In space, on the Invictus, Admiral Hale watched the council chamber on his screen. His officers stood ready, hands hovering over controls. One order, and the fleet could reduce Orath Prime to rubble. But Hale did not give that order. "Hold fire," he said softly. His officers nodded. They trusted him. They understood. This was not a war of weapons. This was a war of will, and humanity's will was unbreakable. Back in the chamber, the Rithari leader finally rose again. His voice was low, broken, but steady enough to ask the question all feared. "What do you want from us, Admiral Hale?" The answer came swift like iron. "Respect," Hale said. "Recognition, equality. No more chains, no more false treaties. You will treat Earth as you treat yourselves, or there will be no treaties at all." The words hung in the air. The Rithari leader sank back into his seat. The others lowered their heads. They all knew. The galaxy had changed. Outside, the alien citizens watched the human fleet in silence. The sky was filled with their ships, their discipline, their power. To many, it felt like looking upon gods. To others, it was terror. But one truth was shared in every heart. Humanity had spoken, and the galaxy had no choice but to listen. On the Invictus, Admiral Hale turned away from the screen. His expression never changed, but in his eyes burned fire. "This is only the first lesson," he said, quietly to his officers. "If they forget again, then they will learn in fire." The officers nodded. None doubted his words. The galaxy had thought humans would negotiate. Instead, humanity had sent the finest Battlefleet the stars had ever seen. And now, with only words, they had bent the will of the greatest council in history. But Admiral Hale knew it was not over. The true test was still ahead. The council chamber was heavy with silence. The human message had struck deeper than any weapon. Words had shaken the galaxy, but humanity was not finished. Admiral Jonathan Hale stood on the bridge of the Invictus, his eyes steady on the holographic map before him. The council had heard his demands. They had seen the fleet, but he knew pride was a disease. The great empires would not surrender their arrogance with words alone. "They think we bluff," Hale said quietly. His voice was calm, but every officer on the bridge felt the storm behind it. They must see truth with their own eyes. He lifted his hand. "Target the moon." The command sent a chill through the bridge crew. Not the planet, not the people, the moon. An empty, lifeless rock that circled Orith Prime, a symbol. Across the fleet, orders rippled like lightning. Battleships adjusted position, cannons aligned, energy reactors hummed, glowing brighter than suns. Thousands of alien citizens below raised their eyes to the sky. At first, they saw only silent steel. Then, they saw fire. A line of human warships turned in perfect formation. Their weapons pulsed with light, as if stars themselves had been trapped inside. Gasps filled the streets. Priests fell to their knees. Children cried. Even soldiers lowered their weapons, staring upward in terror. Inside the council chamber, alarms screamed. The chamber screens displayed the human fleet shifting into firing formation. The Joric ambassador shrieked, wings flapping wildly. "They mean to fire on us! They mean to burn the planet!" The Therial delegate stood frozen, her golden eyes wide. "No, not the planet. Look where their weapons aim. The moon." The counselors turned. The screens showed the small gray moon of Orith Prime hanging silently in the black. It was lifeless, uninhabited, but it had been there for millions of years. It was part of the sky every child had grown up with, and now humanity had chosen it. Admiral Hale gave no speech. He did not warn. He simply lowered his hand. Fire. The fleet obeyed. From the barrels of 1,000 cannons, beams of light tore across space. They were not thin lines, but rivers of fire, wide and blinding, crossing the void with impossible speed. The night sky turned white. The beams struck the moon. For one breath there was silence. Then, the moon shattered. The explosion was beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. The gray sphere cracked, split, and burst apart. Mountains crumbled into dust. Craters split open like wounds. Fragments as large as cities spun outward, glowing with fire. A wave of light and dust rolled across space, brighter than the stars themselves. On Orith Prime, the explosion turned night into day. Shadows vanished. The sky itself seemed to scream as the fragments spread like fire across the heavens. Every citizen saw it. Every counselor saw it. The moon that had stood for ages was gone, erased in seconds, by human hands. Inside the council chamber there was no sound but the breaking of pride. The Joric ambassador collapsed into his seat, wings hanging limp. The Rithari leader lowered his silver head into his hands, unable to speak. The Therial delegate whispered, her voice trembling. This is not power. This is godhood." The Tirac with 6 eyes closed, all of them slowly. "No, this is humanity." In space, the human fleet returned to silence. Weapons cooled, cannons dimmed. The ships slid back into formation, calm as ever. It was as if nothing had happened, as if destroying a moon was nothing more than a lesson. On the Invictus, Admiral Hale stood tall. "Let them decide now," he said. "Let them see what comes when they doubt Earth." His officers said nothing. There was nothing to say. They had all witnessed it, a moon destroyed like glass, and they knew the galaxy would never doubt again. On Orath Prime, the citizens were in shock. Some wept openly in the streets. Some prayed to gods that had never answered. But most simply stared at the empty sky, where the moon had been, and knew that the galaxy had changed forever. Children asked their parents, "Where did the moon go?" Parents had no answers. They could only hold their children close and whisper in fear. Back in the chamber, chaos tried to rise. Some demanded surrender. Others begged for negotiations. But one truth united them all. Resistance was gone. No empire, no fleet, no weapon could stand against a power that could erase a world in a single breath. The Rithari leader finally rose. His silver hands shook, his voice weak. "We cannot fight them. We cannot defy them. We must accept." The counselors, once proud, once arrogant, now nodded slowly, their heads lowered. The greatest chamber in the galaxy had bowed, not with battle, but with fear. Above, Admiral Hale gave his final words for the day. The message spread across every channel, across every world connected to the Council. "You have seen what we can do. We came not for war. But if war is forced upon us, this galaxy will burn. Remember the moon. Remember it well, for it is only the beginning." The message ended. Silence followed. The galaxy did not forget. That night, Orath Prime did not sleep. The sky was filled with burning fragments of the shattered moon, glowing like scars against the stars. Every citizen watched, knowing they had seen the impossible. And in every heart, one truth burned brighter than fire. Humanity had arrived, not as diplomats, not as students, not as servants, but as masters of power. The smoke of shattered rock still hung in the skies of Orath Prime. Where once a moon had circled the planet for millions of years, now only a ring of glowing debris spun slowly through space. The fragments burned in the atmosphere, falling like fire across the night. The galaxy had seen the lesson. Humanity had spoken with fire. And now the Council was left with only one choice. Inside the Council chamber, silence held every corner. No one dared to breathe too loud. No one dared to speak too quickly. The sound of the moon's death still echoed in their minds. The Rithari leader, usually proud, now looked like a shadow of himself. His silver hands trembled as he rose from his seat. His voice cracked as he spoke. "Admiral Hale, humanity, what is it you demand?" The words, simple as they were, carried the weight of defeat. It was not negotiation. It was surrender. On the flagship Invictus, Admiral Jonathan Hale stood with his hands behind his back. His face was calm, unreadable. Around him, the bridge officers watched the transmission of the Council chamber. Their hearts were steady, but their eyes burned with the memory of the moon breaking apart. Hale spoke with the same calm voice that had carried across the galaxy before. "Earth asks for no chains. Earth asks for no masters. From this day, humanity stands as equal among the stars. Trade will be fair. Treaties will be honest. No more false rules. No more secret taxes. No more arrogance." His voice grew colder, heavier. "And if you try again to bind us, remember the moon." The words fell like iron. The chamber shook with quiet whispers. The insectoid Joric ambassador, wings folded tight, lowered his head. The Therial delegate closed her glowing eyes in silence. The Tirak with 6 eyes leaned forward, speaking slowly so all could hear. "We have no choice. We must accept. To resist is to die." The others nodded, one by one. The vote was not taken with pride, but with fear. The Galactic Council, once rulers of the stars, had bent their heads to humanity. On the streets of Orath Prime, the news spread like wildfire. Screens across the city flashed with the Council's decision. For the first time in history, the greatest empires of the galaxy had recognized a young world, Earth, as their equal. Citizens spoke in hushed voices. Some whispered of fear, that humans would become tyrants. Others whispered of hope, that Perhaps humans would be different from the old empires, but all agreed on one truth: the galaxy would never be the same. On the Invictus, Hale watched as the council chamber broadcast ended. He turned slowly to his officers. "The lesson is done. Pull the fleet back into formation. We will return to Earth." Commander Voss raised an eyebrow. "No further action, Admiral?" Hale shook his head. "No, they are broken already. To strike them now would make us conquerors. We came not to enslave, but to remind." His officers nodded. They understood. Humanity had shown restraint, even with power in its grasp. That restraint was more terrifying than destruction. For if humans could erase a moon and yet choose not to erase a world, then the galaxy knew. Earth had control not only of its weapons, but of its will. As the fleet turned in the skies above Orath Prime, the alien citizens watched in awe. Thousands of ships, larger and stronger than any seen before, moved in perfect silence. Fighters returned to carriers. Battleships glided back into formation. The sky, once filled with fire, returned to darkness. But the memory would not fade. The scar of the missing moon would burn in their eyes forever. Inside the council chamber, the Rithari leader whispered to his aides, "We thought them desperate. We thought them young. But we were blind. Humanity is not weak. Humanity is not small. Humanity is inevitable." His words carried the final truth. The galaxy's mistake had been pride that now lay shattered, just like the moon. Back on the Invictus, Admiral Hale stood alone for a moment, staring into the stars. His reflection glowed faintly in the glass of the viewing window. He whispered words only his crew could hear. "They thought we would negotiate. They thought we would beg. But humanity does not beg. Humanity builds. Humanity remembers. Humanity fights. And today, the galaxy learned that truth." Behind him, the officers stood straighter, pride swelling in their hearts. They were not conquerors. They were not servants. They were humans. As the fleet vanished into the dark, leaving Orath Prime behind, the galaxy was left in silence. The council sat broken. The citizens whispered in fear and awe. The stars themselves seemed changed. From this day forward, every empire, every ruler, every species would remember: humans never negotiate from weakness. Humans never kneel. Humans send their finest fleet, and with it, they send the future. And that future belonged to Earth.